Okay, Tulsi Gabbard fans, we are finally back. I know it's been nearly a month, well, 3 weeks, to be semi-exact. Y'all know we had a lot of things that went on in between. Like, I did not predict that Kamala Harris was going to drop out between the last Tulsi Gabbard video versus this one. But y'all girl done a darn on Molly Whopped and slam Miss darn on Kamala, honey. So that's one win under Kamala Harris. Under Tulsi's belt, honey. So let's see how she fares out during these upcoming. I still am leaving out hope. She is close to getting in on the December debates along with Andrew Yang. Hopefully that both of them get in. Because it's like it's only two Asians that are still in the race. Because I don't think Julian Castro, I think he's Asian as well. But, they classify him as Hispanic. But, there are Asian Hispanics. But I won't get into that confusion. The only thing confusing me right now is why in the world we got Amy Klobuchar there over Tulsi. Because I definitely personally feel that her policies are stronger than Amy's and several other people. I don't know why for the life of me that she is not, in the debates. But hopefully, she'll get in there. But for the time being, let's continue on with her policies. So the first video, if y'all did not see it, I will leave it down below. We went over burn pits, civil liberties, education, policies, and the Glass-Steagall. And I got my notes down here because I told y'all since she has so many policies that covers different areas, I did not want to go, like this. I wanted to organize them. So the second one, we got about 14 points. So this video is going to be a good about hour long, so it's going to make up for the time difference from the first video to this one. So go ahead and get your drinks, pause the video, and let's get on into it. Okay, now that you got your drinks and stuff, let's go on to the first policy. So campaign finance reform. Okay. And I made a note to go to the other one, rejecting corporate after this one. But so Tulsi Gabbard on campaign finance reform. The Supreme Court Citizens United decision opened the floodgates of dark money into politics, tainting the integrity of our democracy. Tulsi recognizes campaign finance reform is essential to bring the power back to the people in our democracy. She is fighting to get super PAC money out of our elections and limit campaign contributions so the wealthy don't have an unfair advantage over our electoral process. Basically, all of them have been doing that for the most part. That is on more the liberal side. So the only people I haven't seen do that is Joe Biden, Amy Klobuchar, and that's about it. Everybody else has been on board with that for the most part. Limit dark money by forcing transparency of outside groups, corporations, and wealthy donors. Okay, basically the same thing as everybody else. Enforce and prosecute violations of campaign laws. Making voting accessible. Empower voters' influence through a matching program where small donations are matched by government funds. Okay, I think that might be unique because now Andrew Yang, on the other hand, proposed democracy dollars where there's a certain amount of money already given to the candidates where it's not out of their pockets, that the government funds for every citizen to have a certain amount of democracy dollars to put forth into the elections. That way it's equal, versus Tulsi Gabbard is proposing a check match instead. So that's very interesting. I think this might be a little bit more favorable right here. Because if a candidate wants to actually donate more money within the realms of... Because the thing is with democracy dollars, it's a set dollar amount. And if oh, I thought somebody was knocking on my door for a moment. But democracy dollars, I wonder with Andrew Yang, is the democracy dollars maximum going to be to the same level as it is right now with what a regular person can donate, which is $2,800 for the primary, and I think we can donate up to $5,000 for the general election. So I wonder if the democracy dollars is the same amount for that. If not, if it's, let's say, like just a couple $100, I think this will be better, because if somebody does have $1,000 to donate to a candidate, I think they can do that. And if somebody wants to donate the maximum $2,800, they could do that as well. So I think I like this one better, the check matching. But then again, like I said, I don't know to the extent of what the democracy dollars with Andrew Yang would look like. Whether the same, the same limitations would be in place if we replace the current, the election process with donations with democracy dollars. So yeah, Andrew Yang hasn't, or at least I haven't come across a video, and I've seen plenty of his videos, but I haven't really heard him mention the price limits of democracy dollars. But if it's the same amount as it is now for if you donate money, it's a good 50-50 split. So both unique policies from, Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang. Which one do y'all prefer? Do y'all prefer the democracy dollars, or would y'all prefer this one instead, where it empowered voter influences through a matching program instead? I think I'm a little bit more inclined to be on this one, but either one would be better than what we currently have. Tulsi is a PAC-free candidate who takes only individual contributions to fund her campaigns. Okay. I'm not personally against PAC money. I don't, demonize all PAC money, because, you got some, charitable groups that might, fund PACs like the Henry P. Newton gun associations to combat the outright corruption of, the other gun association, which we ain't even going to darn on name. You also have animal rights, LGBT rights, other black activist groups, Hispanic groups that might form PACs, and I don't think all of them should be demonized with the stereotype of when you think of PAC money, you're thinking of super rich corporations. So I'm 50-50 on this. Legislation HR 20. Government by the People Act, important legislation to enact campaign finance reform. And then, of course, you got some videos. So I'm noticing with Tulsi Gabbard thus far, she's the one that has all the video receipts, which is actually good for people like me, because I'm really a visual person anyway. But for the sake of the video, I just don't click on the links, because her videos might be 20-30 minutes long, and if we go through every single one of them, this video will probably be like 4 hours long. But she also has some short, Twitter, handle receipts where we could just go to some Twitter articles as well. And then some other, third-party tertiary sites. Okay, now going on to rejecting corporate donations / PAC free. So I guess this goes into more intricate detail of what she means by going completely PAC free. So here's the key points right here. Since first running for Congress, Tulsi has refused donations from large industries such as Wall Street, Big Pharma, tobacco, liquor, etc. Tulsi is also a PAC-free candidate, relying exclusively on individual donations to fund her political campaigns. Tulsi has been endorsed by End Citizens United as a member of the No PAC caucus. Oh, she's really about that life. She's about that life. Go ahead and join the No PAC. Honey, I ain't even know it was a such thing as the No PAC. Okay, go ahead and teach me something new, honey. But she's a part of the No PAC caucus. Congresswoman Gabbard is championing reform to fix the broken campaign finance system and get big money out of politics. She is a dedicated former fighter, fighting on behalf of Hawaiians, and understand that Washington works best when every voice is heard, not just the wealthiest ones, said ECU President Tiffany Muller. ECU is a grassroots organization fighting to get big money out of elections. I've decided to stop accepting PAC / lobbyist money. Bottom line, we can't allow our future to be driven out and shaped by special interests. And once again, she is proving that she is the queen of receipts, honey. So here's all the Twitter links. I encourage y'all to go ahead and check these out. They'll verify the authenticity of the receipts. So far so good for Tulsi Gabbard. Like I said, she's definitely now up there within the top 5 candidates that I would choose thus far. So going on to policy number 3. Let me see. Corporate donations. Where's corporate donations? Was that within campaign finance reform? Oh, my bad. I thought that was a comma, y'all. Y'all know I'm left-handed, right? So I got chicken scratch writing. So when I'm looking at the rejecting corporate donations, I thought those were 2 different ones because my G looks like a doggone comma. Don't y'all judge me. Our last president was left-handed. So just because we can't write Wolf doggone sugar honey iced tea don't mean that we ain't intellectual, honey. And you know, a little dig to y'all right-handed folks. I think Donald Trump is right-handed, so don't y'all be laughing at our left-handed chicken scratch writing over here. So going on into the number 3 policy, criminal justice reform. Okay, and then she got it broken down into 3 different parts. I think I put sex trafficking in a different video. Which one I think that's going to be like our 3rd or 4th video. I'm trying to see where sex trafficking is on my list. I definitely know. Oh, it's within this video. Okay. But we're going to go into criminal justice reform first. Oh, I guess this video is going to be an hour long then. I mean, I said it was going to be an hour long at the beginning, but I thought, that's code for like 50, 55 minutes. But it looks like it actually is going to be like an hour plus today. So, Tulsi is a staunch advocate of criminal justice reform. The U.S. has the highest incarceration rate in the entire world. Criminal justice reform can help achieve lower crime rates, greater productivity, reduce costs, improve mental health, and many other positive outcomes. Tulsi has denounced the failed war on drugs, noting that decades of policies that focuses on incarceration over rehabilitation has left generations of people ill-equipped to move on with their lives when they have done their time. Tulsi has spoken out about the urgent need for criminal justice legislation to reduce recidivism, address the lack of transition for people who have served their time, reduce the economic impact of billions spent every year on incarceration, and reduce the human impact of families broken up through incarceration. Tulsi has fought against the privatization of prisons. Corporations profiting off incarceration is costly, dangerous, and inhumane. And the steps that she has proposed or has been part of is HR 5682, which is the First Step Act. Then she also been part of HR 4261, the Safe Justice Act, HR 3713, Sentencing Reform Act of 2015. And just in case y'all wondering why I'm saying everything phonetically in detail, is because I started, for my people who might, want to show this to deaf people, I started allowing the captions to be allowed back on my videos, so that's why I'm trying to speak more phonetically and, explain everything instead of glossing over stuff, because sometimes I would gloss over certain stuff, but then I said, well, there are some deaf people and, or people who might not be able to understand everything of my southern jargon, so let me go ahead and get the captions back. So if you are looking at this with the captions and you might misunderstood what I said, you always have the caption option. But continuing on, HR 3713, Sentencing Reform Act of 2015, HR 920, Smarter Sentencing Act, HR 1854, Comprehensive Justice and Mental Health Act, and HR 1809, Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act. And then you got the Tulsi statements videos down below. Once again, the queen of receipts, honey. Oh, and she got quite a bit of them for y'all to look through in this one. Next is marijuana legalization. And I think every candidate has been in agreement on the Democratic side with legalizing marijuana. It's just some want it completely decriminalized and recreational use, and then you have some that lean more on the moderate side that just want the medical side of it released, but not the recreational, like the Joe Bidens of the world. And you know the irony of Joe Biden still trying to be strict on that issue is, you know, Mr. Arthur the crime bill, honey. Need I say more? So he's looking the least favorable on this type of policy, even though he has agreed with the medical being federal, you know, nationwide. Tulsi, I predict probably is. Why do I think for some reason Tulsi might also be a little bit strict, but not as strict as Joe Biden? She might darn gone surprise me. Let's see. Tulsi has been fighting to decriminalize marijuana and end the opiate epidemic throughout her years in Congress. She is on the House Cannabis Caucus and has been endorsed by Okay, I stand corrected. Within the first sentence, darn gone Tulsi done shut me down. Y'all can tell I haven't looked at this. Y'all seeing my raw reaction in real time. So she done shut me down within the first sentence. So she is 100% for it. She has introduced 2 bipartisan marijuana bills along with Rep. Don Young, Republican out of, is that the abbreviation for Alaska or Arkansas? I want to say that might be Arkansas. Normal and other supporters. So the Indian Federal Marijuana Prohibition Act of 2019 will remove marijuana from the federal controlled substances list and allow states the freedom to regulate marijuana as they choose, without federal interference. Okay, so no, I take it back. Back pedal, boom, boom, back pedal, boom, boom. Okay, what she means is, okay, and I predicted that Tulsi would be more like this. What she is she's pro-choice on the matter. She's not completely for, okay, we're going to mandate it federally across the board. What she is proposing is that we decriminalize it. However, the states still get to choose what they want to do. Versus people who have been a lot more liberal on the subject, such as Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, you know, Kamala. Unfortunately, we don't care what she think. I think Kamala was closer to, you know, Joe Biden until she flip-flopped and made it seem like she was about that life too. But Joe Biden is more on, no, just strict medical. Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, Bernie Sanders is more like decriminalize everything. And Tulsi is dead slap in the middle where it's like decriminalize the federal penalties per se. However, the states can still have their charges and they can do with the distribution however they choose. That's what I'm getting from this. So she also signed the Marijuana Data Collection Act of 2019, will study the effects of state legalized medicinal and non-medicinal marijuana programs from a variety of perspectives, including state revenues, public health, substance abuse, and opiate criminal justice and employment. Ending Federal Marijuana Prohibition Act 2019, H.R. 1587 Marijuana Data Collection Act, H.R. 1227 Ending Federal Marijuana Prohibition Act of 2017. Okay, so they updated it one from 2017 to 2019. H.R. 6495 Marijuana Data Collection Act of 2018. H.R. 415 Marijuana Justice Act of 2018. H.R. 2215 Safe Act of 2017 Secure and Fair Enforcement Banking Act to allow banking access for marijuana related services. I think this is implying towards grants and stuff like that, because banks didn't want to touch marijuana because it was labeled a legal drug at the time, so you couldn't get no business loans if you wanted to open up a facility, because even if the state allowed it, the federal government still had it as a controlled substance, so you couldn't get bank loans and stuff for it. So I think this will make it where you now can get bank loans and stuff for marijuana. So HR 824, responsibility addressing the Marijuana Policy Gap Act of 2017, Veterans Equal Access Amendment to allow VA physicians to prescribe marijuana in states where it's legal. And then HR 5634, Medical Cannabis Research Act of 2018. And then she got her statement videos down here. And then also her tertiary sources, her third-party links. Now, the only thing I would have loved for her to add on to as well is, allow for when it comes to the loans, the banking policies. Let me see. Let me go back here. Okay. SAFE Act, the Secure and Fair Enforcement Banking Act, allow banking access for marijuana. So let me go ahead and check this policy out real quick. Okay, unfortunately, I clicked on the link. It really doesn't. Okay, here it goes down here. This bill prohibits a federal banking regulator from terminating or limiting the deposit insurance or share insurance of depository institutions solely because of the institution provides financial services to a legitimate marijuana-related business, prohibiting or otherwise discouraging a depository institution from offering financial services to such a business, recommending incentivizing or encouraging a depository institution not to offer financial services to an account holder solely because the account holder is affiliated with such a business, or for taking any adverse or corrective supervisory actions on a loan made to a person solely because the person either owns such a business or owns real estate or equipment needed to such a business. Okay, so pretty much this is just for people in general who are trying to get a loan with the that might be connected to a marijuana facility. Now, I wish she would have extended on the disparities in regards to marijuana, especially how, the disproportionate arrests with low-income white people, black people, people who have records in general. They should be allowed to have, because this just makes it in general for anybody, but we also need to recognize that there are still disparities where they might allow somebody who don't have a record to go ahead and get a loan for, but if you have a criminal record for marijuana, they might still give you the side eye, which it doesn't make sense because now marijuana is legalized and you're trying to operate it within the facility of the store. But there's always those double standards, especially when it comes to my type of melanin persuasion, honey. So I wish you would have had a policy, like Elizabeth Warren and them have mentioned about the disparities that black and Latinos face when it comes to trying to get marijuana facility. At least I think Elizabeth Warren touched on it. Cory Booker, I definitely know, touched on it. Kamala Harris, she jumped on the Cory Booker train and took some of his points and was speaking on it. But I want to say Elizabeth Warren has as well. And then, of course, Marion Williamson, she's just overall great all around. But I wish Tulsi Gabbard would have added that in as well for her, where she would address the double standards that black people and Latinos face with trying to get loans versus, our white counterparts. Especially her being a minority herself. Y'all told me she is Asian, she is Samoan. So being a brown-skinned woman, you'd think she would have a little bit more relation to disparity. But here's where the flip side comes in with being Asian, though. Because Asians surprisingly do not face economic injustice compared to any other brown-skinned counterpart. So to give y'all a little economics lesson, white women actually make less money economically than Asian people. So here's a good comparison of how when it comes to certain issues like this, Tulsi Gabbard might lack compared to Elizabeth Warren and Marianne Williamson, Amy Klobuchar, who are white, because economically Asians are making more on the dollar compared to their white-owned counterparts. 95, I think I read where it's 95% on to the dollar of the white men the Asian women are making. So they're not thinking about the economics disparities in detail compared to how everybody else has mentioned it. That's not an older white man like a Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders, because I don't even think Bernie Sanders really mentioned about the double standards that white men have compared to black and brown counterparts. They focus on the criminal justice disparities, about how black people are treated, brown skinned people are treated, but when it comes to economic, equality, I don't think that's really addressed as well when it comes to Asian candidates and white candidates, because Asians are really second to the white person. And it's like Asians are so close on the matching compared to the white, male, that they really don't see it compared to us that makes like 60 cents on the dollar. Native Americans who make like 53 cents on the dollar. Latinos around that same ballpark, 55, 60 cents on the dollar. So, yeah, I need her to add that on to her list as well, about there needs to be some guidelines making sure that there aren't no double standards in play when it comes to minorities trying to get loans and people who have suffered from previous charges in regards to marijuana. So now we're going to go on to more of the serious subjects. I mean, that was a serious subject as well, but I'm talking about more of the hard subjects to talk about, the sex trafficking. So, sex trafficking is a tragic form of modern-day slavery. Tulsi is fighting to pass legislation to clear the criminal record of sex trafficking victims. With a criminal record, sex trafficking victims are vulnerable to being exploited again and again, as the record makes it difficult for them to find jobs and housing. Okay. Tulsi received the, Aloha Nupoa Advocacy Award for her dedication to serving and empowering human trafficking survivors in Hawaii. Now, y'all know I don't speak Spanish, so my Spanish-speaking folk, y'all correct me if I mispronounce that, but I want to say that's the hola or hola. Am I not supposed to pronounce the H like in La Francais? We don't pronounce the H. The H actually has the old sounding name in La Francais. So is it the same thing per Espanol where I say aloha as opposed to hola? So y'all correct me if the same pronunciation applies to Espanol as it is La Francais. So it goes to show HR 459 Trafficking Survivors Relief Act, HR 1862 Global Child Protection Act, HR 1842 Strengthening Children's Safety Act of 2017, HR 1188 Adam Walsh Reauthorization Act of 2017, HR 883 Targeting Child Predators Act of 2017, and last but not least, HR 1625 the Target Act. And then she got her statement videos right here and her statutory third-party links. And if y'all see me licking my lips throughout this video, it is December. And this weather is getting to my lips. Y'all know I suffer from eczema. So my skin is already prone to dry. And the changes within the weather. Because in North Carolina, we have this bipolar weather where tomorrow is going to be like almost 70 degrees. But today is like 50-something degrees. So the bipolar weather actually triggers up flares and dries out the skin with me. So if y'all see me licking my lips, that's why. My skin is wreaking havoc right now with my eczema. My lips are just drying out. And then it doesn't help that I haven't gotten enough water throughout the day as well. I don't ran short on my bottled water. Y'all know we can't drink and that's another thing I hope she gets on to talking about is about the contamination with waters, because in North Carolina, y'all know we can't even drink our darn on fountain water. They like to talk about Flint, Michigan, and all of that. But honey, to us black and native folks here in Fayetteville that rely on the Cape Fear River and stuff, and then you got the Lumbee River, honey, our darn on stuff is just as contaminated. Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't say just as contaminated, but we can't drink it, especially if you have pre-medical issues like me. Like, I got a whole host of issues, so yeah, that's why my darn on lips are jacked up right now, because, you know, eczema, lack of water, so y'all just bear with me licking my lips throughout this video, y'all. Because I know somebody in that comment section going to be like, I wonder is darn on diva darn on licking at certain parts. Like, no, honey. So I just wanted to darn on make that darn on statement known real quick. So next is, let me see, sexual assault. So this goes into more key points about her thoughts on sexual assault. So Tulsi has worked vigorously to bring attention and provide assistance to victims of human trafficking, a modern day form of slavery that compels millions of people in the United States and abroad into exploitative and labor and commercial sex. Tulsi has sponsored legislation to help human trafficking victims, military sex assault survivors. Oh, and it's real corrupt in the military. Like, they got, it's almost just as worse off as the blue wall of silence, where you can't hardly report on anybody. So I'm glad she's tackling that as well. But especially being hurt, she being in the military and have firsthand knowledge of that type of stuff, she would be the best one to speak on the corruption within the military, seeing that she's, you know, experienced, you know, seeing that firsthand. So nobody's going to have more insight than her in regards to that particular area. But also victims of sexual harassment in Congress. Yeah, that goes down too in the Congress, honey. And young athletes who face sexual assault. Tulsi believes that survivors of sexual assault deserve a fair, safe, and transparent process to seek justice. So Tulsi is an original co-sponsor of H.R. 6545, Violence Against Women Reauthorization Act of 2018 that we iterated earlier, which builds on more than 2 decades of progress to address domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking, including in Native and Indigenous communities. I'm glad that she touched on this subject because in 2018 alone, over 2,000 Native Americans were taken out in sex trafficked and have not been seen from to this day. Far as I've searched, I tried to get an update on that. There hasn't been much luck on recovering those 2,000 lost Native Americans that have been sexually trafficked. And I know that don't sound like a large number compared to black people. 60,000 this year is currently missing. But we got to realize that Native Americans are only 2% of the population. And so 2,000 is quite a sizable number when you factor in that they are only 2% of the population. They make up roughly, don't get me the line, but out of 320 million people, I think they make up just like 6 million people in the U.S. And that's not even that. I think that also includes our surrounding islands that are territories as well, like Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands. And you count all those in, they represent just like 2% of the population and 5% of the global population. So very small group indeed. Versus, you know, we as Black Americans, we as Black people, we represent the majority really when it comes to the globe. Minority here in America, we represent around 15% of the population. So 60,000 is still a large number for us as well. So, and you know, she didn't include it. Okay, now Tulsi, you slipping. Now you should have included the 60,000 that was missing for us today as well. You made a mention of highlighting the Native and Indigenous folks. You could have highlighted the fact that Black people are actually the largest, most trafficked that's on record this year. So, no. So I got to deduct the point from Tulsi on that one. She missed the mark with this one. But you know, they can always update the policies. So Tulsi is an original co-sponsor of H.R. 459, Trafficking Survivors Relief Act of 2017. Bipartisan legislation will create a process for victims of human trafficking to request relief from non-violent federal crimes committed as a direct result of human trafficking. Okay. Tulsi co-sponsored H.R. 3775, Military Sexual Assault Victims Empowerment. Safe at, oh Lord, see now I went so long without sniffing my nose, but y'all know how it is. I got this fan on to, to dim out the noise. Y'all know I live in an apartment. I try not to project my voice so hard, so these walls are thin wolf a darn gone damn y'all. So y'all want to deal with the sniffling again. But anyways, which gives survivors the option to seek reimbursable care from non-VA/TRICARE medical providers who can best provide the care these victims need. I'm sorry, y'all. At least we did go a whole half hour without my nose sniffling. Tulsi is an original co-sponsor also of H.R. 2016, Military Justice Improvement Act of 2013, which is a bipartisan, bicameral effort to restore the faith of the American people in military sexual assault survivors by removing decision-making from the chain of command and empowering experienced trial counsel to determine whether to take a case to a special or a general court material proceeding. And I definitely think that's needed because, honey, like I said, that darn military is set up like the blue wall of silence. So, yeah, you definitely need to take it away from the darn chain of command, honey, and have a special counsel. That's why I've been advocating that we should have a whole special prosecution force in general to deal with law enforcement. But in regards to this case, I definitely recommend a special counsel in cases of sexual assault involving the military. So she also proposes an original co-sponsor of, she's an original co-sponsor of H.R. 4494, Congressional Accountability and Hush Fund Elimination Act. Bipartisan comprehensive legislation would ensure that perpetrators are held personally and financially accountable for their actions by ending taxpayer funded harassment settlements and require any individual who has settled such a claim using taxpayer funds to fully reimburse the Treasury. Okay. Now that might get some pushback, honey, because you know some of them congressmen are dirt, especially during around election time, honey. You always hear some scandals with the Republican Party with they darn deeds and stuff, and they only supposed to legally be making a certain amount of money a year. So when it comes to these settlements for the millions of dollars, I'm trying to figure out how do they go by reimburse, how do they get that. And so we have to make sure they can't file for bankruptcy either, because now Tulsi, I would appreciate that they start being personally held liable. I propose that it should be a combination of both. Like, depending on the damages done, if the damage to the person warrants millions of dollars, and obviously most of these people only have like a couple $100,000 in their pension funds or whatever, I'm not necessarily opposed to, some state funding award, because ultimately the government especially when you're talking about within the military, the government is letting them down. So since they're part of the federal government, they should be on the hook, for paying the victim as well, especially with some of these assaults happening at the police station, within the military grounds and all of that while you're overseas. And that makes it real, difficult to press charges when you're in a third world country somewhere. You're not on U.S. soil. So, yeah, I think definitely in those types of situations, since there's a system in place that makes it difficult to, at this point in time to file against somebody above you, that, it still should fall on behalf of the state to have to pull, to bear the partner of some sort of civil suit, if that makes sense. Because like I said, if we just make it where the person is accountable then the settlement amounts would go down, because like I said, you only can get so much money for somebody who's making $200,000-$300,000 a year. But here's all her statements down here. Okay, next one is domestic issues. Just in case y'all wonder why it seems like it's a splice, I did pause the video real quick to finally blow my nose so I sound more clearer. We're going through this a little bit quicker than I expected. Still quite lengthy, which I will have the timestamps below for y'all that want to zoom to specific issues. This one I only have 9 policies I'm going over. The third one, same thing. So it's the fourth video that's going to be definitely over an hour long, because that's the one that goes over 14 different policies of Tulsi Gabbard's. I thought that was this video, but now looking back at my notes, this only has 9 different policies that we went over, versus the fourth one actually goes over 13 different policies. Oh, wait a minute. Oh shoot, I might have spoke too soon again. Domestic issue. Ooh, do I want to cover all that within? Okay, let me go ahead and make a note real quick, y'all. So what I'm going to do for time purposes is, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to come back to that one. So I'm going to make a little note around domestic issues and come back to that one for time purposes of the video. And we'll put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, this will be like a half-hour video right here within itself. We already went over civil liberties, because if you couldn't go on civil liberties, yep, that's the one that we did in our very first video. So I ain't going to go over that one twice. So some of her policies, depending on how she having group, overlap with each other, from what I'm noticing. Because as y'all can tell from domestic issues, it also covers some of her other policies that we have gone over as well. So, and then some go and split up other issues as well. So for time purposes, I'm going to make that a video by itself. So now we're going to go back to domestic violence. So Tulsi Gabbard on domestic violence, key points. Tulsi is an advocate for domestic violence victims, many of whom have courageously fled life-threatening situations with nothing more than the clothes on their backs, a few dollars in their pockets, and the desire to live without fear. She supports legislation to help domestic violence victims attain legal representation. Tulsi also supports text 911 as one way to help domestic violence victims. And I'm surprised that option is still not darn going known, is not used, because in this day and age, like in this type of era where we have, phones at our whims, you would think there would be a text to 911, especially in cases where we know that you don't supposed to be talking if somebody breaking in your house. And it's like you probably can't darn gonna tell the person because you hiding in the closet, and then the perpetrator, the thief is whatever's in the house. So many situations like that where it would be better off to text to the police officer and make sure you have your geolocation on your phone, your GPS, and they can just track you that way and come to your house. I don't know why we don't have that as an option. So shout out to Tulsi Gabbard for, proposing, text 911 as a one way to help domestic violence. I think that should just be for any crime in general, not just domestic violence. Because like I said, I don't understand. And then, they rolling it out in certain cities where There are text responses that you can do this to your local law enforcement. Also, you got the neighborhood watch app. So if you suspect, criminal activity going on, I wish they had it right here in the 2-6, baby. I'd be darn on rolling on a lot of darn on trifling low down mother truckers around here. But unfortunately, we don't got it in the 2-6 just yet. But in other cities in North Carolina, I noticed you got the neighborhood watch thing where you can darn on describe what's going on, and then it would give a geographical location to that officer to look out for that particular area. Honey, like I said, it wouldn't pay for us to have it here. Darn on Fayetteville be clean overnight if they had it in this darn on area, honey. But legislation she has been part of includes HR 1762, which is the Power Act. Tulsi is an original co-sponsor of the law, which requires every state U.S. attorney to promote and expand pro bono legal services specifically for domestic violence survivors. Once again, the Queen of Receipts herself has her statement videos backing up her claims. And then last but not least is gun safety. And was gun safety part of domestic violence issue? Let me check real quick just in case I... Okay, so the next video, I guess I will only have to tackle infrastructure, nationwide nursing shortages, education policy, raise the wage, and net neutrality. So that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. So that probably be, once again, still a half hour. So last but not least is the gun safety legislation. So Tulsi strongly supports a number of gun control measures, including a federal ban on military-style assault rifles and high-capacity magazines, requiring comprehensive pre-purchase background checks, closing the gun show loophole, making sure that terrorists are not allowed to buy guns. Tulsi's support of gun control has led... Now, I hate to even stop it right here, but the problem with this is, yeah, common sense is we're not going to allow somebody who obviously is on the terrorist watch list to buy guns. But the problem is with all the domestic grown terrorists that we have here in the United States is they have a record where you wouldn't think of them as terrorists. Like, we had one person shoot up several people in Texas. They said he had a background as a real estate agent. Then you had one boy who did not have not so much as a parking ticket. He went and shot up a school. Over last year alone, there was a school shooting nearly every day of the year. It's 365 days in a year, and there was like over 340 some school shootings that I know of. I think it's really, I might be underestimating that number, but I think it was like for nearly every day of the year, there was like a school shooting. And most of these are by people who would normally pass a background check. So what do you do with them? I think there should be some harsher punishments for those types of offenders. Tulsi's support of gun control has led to her rating of 100% by the Brady campaign to prevent gun violence, along with an F rating for the NRA and a 0% rating for the Hawaii Rifle Association. Oh, Hawaii Rifle Association? You telling me they ain't quite as liberal either? Oh my honey. I expect it from the NRA. The NRA is basically the alt-right. And y'all know I didn't even want to name them, honey. But I guess Tulsi ain't scared of saying the Voldemort of the gun association, honey. Because it's very funny how the NRA don't ever mention about, certain gun, policies when it concerns, people of color, brown-skinned people, black people. They were silent on Philando Castile, but then they want to push for teachers to have guns in the school system. But it's like, well, you didn't defend Philando Castile being innocently shot by claiming he had a darn gun to a police officer, and he worked in the school system. So once again, a F rating for her is basically an A in my darn book, because the NRA can't be trusted in any regards to be non-biased. Now, I mean, pretty much the NRA is like the white supremacy of Dargon Gun Association. They are basically for the gun rights of Dargon supremacy. For funding Dargon terror and stuff. Because that's the only time that they come out, it seems like to defend the Dargon criminals. But anyways, moving on. Just in case y'all caught that sneeze before I pause the camera. Excuse me. So, Tulsi's support of gun control has led to... Okay, I said that already. We ain't going to mention the Voldemort of gun controls over again. So, Tulsi participated in the House sit-in in 2016 when Republicans refused to allow any members to vote on any gun control legislation. In working towards enacting real gun control measures, Tulsi is focusing on bipartisan measures that have a chance of actually becoming passed into law rather than using the issue as a political football. So she has been part of HR 4909, which is Stop School Violence Act. Like I said, just last year alone, there was like over 340 some school shootings. And 95% of them were white people born here in the U.S. So you can't really label this an act of darn domestic terror. Act of foreign terror when over 90% of the perpetrators, Lord, try saying that fast. It's like Peter Piper picked a pack of peppers. But on a serious note, you can't really say it's an act of foreign terrorism when over 90% of the perpetrators are white people born here, if that makes sense. I think out of 340 some school shootings, none of them last year were black people. Now I know before last year there was like over 500 some shootings in general. And I think 2 people were black out of 500. No Asian folks, no Native Americans. I think it was like a half a dozen Hispanic folks. But once again, a majority were white people. So and then she got HR 5807, which is bans, I guess, assault weapons ban. Okay. Me personally, I don't mind if you have the background and clearance for that type of weapon. So I wonder, is there an exemption clause for people who served in the military? Because I don't think, if somebody is trained on that and don't have a record or propensity to, commit an act of terror with such weapon, I don't mind a military personnel from, I don't mind them having those types of weapons. But I definitely don't think the average doggone person, in my type of neighborhood need a type of weapon like that. But definitely somebody like military or somebody like that, I wouldn't be opposed to them having that type of weapon. But H Resolution 367, I think that's short for resolution because it's different from, HR. They got a little bit more letters, so... Established the Select Committee on Gun Violence Prevention. Then you got HR 3947, Automatic Gunfire Prevention Act, and HR 3999 to ban devices that speed up gunfire from semi-automatic weapons. Y'all know I'm 50-50 on that one as well. It's like, I get the premise. But it's like, that might slow down somebody who's committing an act of terror. But then again, I'm 50-50 on that one. HR 2670, Protect Domestic Violence and Stalking Victims Act, ensuring domestic violence perps can't buy firearm. See, now I'm a little bit iffy on that one too, because now domestic violence don't always is linked to because domestic violence is personal. So if the person works through the proper channels of going through legal action to get a restraining order and making sure that person is away from them, I'm not for them for having a full-time ban. So I'm going to need some more clarification on that. Is they permanently banned? So yeah, I'm confused on that one. So yeah, like I said, I'm 50-50 on the protecting domestic violence and stalking victims at ensuring domestic violence perps can't buy firearms. Because that's to say that, you know, outside of domestic violence, that they would have a propensity to, you know, just shoot somebody in general. And like I said, domestic violence is personal. So I'm thinking outside of the domestic violence situation, if they are fully removed from that person, is the ban still applied nationwide? Like, let's say that person leaves the whole state of, you know, North Carolina, and their victim is in North Carolina. Is they still banned from having a, because is this going to be federal where, you know, no matter where they go in the United States, they can't have a, you know, firearm? But then again, like I said, we had a mass domestic terrorist shooting from somebody who had a flawless record, did not have a domestic violence case at all, did not have so much as a parking ticket, and he went out and shot over a dozen people. So yeah, I don't want to fully, you know, over restrict people from getting firearms. So yeah, unless they have threatened somebody with the gun or something, and even in those situations, I'm for like a temporary ban until like they're permanently, you know, till that domestic suit is over with. But yeah, in the meantime, yeah, that's a very slippery slope. I'm not for permanently banning, you know, people who have committed domestic violence, because there's a myriad of things that could be considered domestic violence. Like my girl pal, she was charged with domestic violence for simply throwing a soda can. It wasn't even a full thing of soda. It was a soda can. They charged her with domestic violence. You know, petty arguing back and forth where it's just some light pushing and shoving. So what is the level of domestic violence? Because you can't just blanketly, you know, ban anybody from having a gun for just a light squabble. Because even if there is physical contact, short of it being like a Rihanna, Chris Brown situation, or Ike and Tina Turner, you can't go to the extent of trying to say, okay, this person don't deserve to have a gun. If, you know, you look at the domestic violence report, and yeah, it might have been some pushing back and forth, but the woman was just as much pushing as the man, and it could be seen as mutual combat. And it's like, well, the woman went to the court and filed first. So even though the witnesses can say that she probably started the shit, not, you know, victim blame or anything, but let's just say in situations of mutual combat where there was no actual physical harm done to the actual victim, and it can be seen that there might have been a history of back and forth between both parties. Now you're trying to ban this person from having a firearm as a result. And then, like I said, my sister, she threw a darn on soda can at her darn on husband, and she got charged with domestic violence. Is we going to ban her from having a gun because she decided to waste Mountain Dew on her husband one day? Once again, a soda can. Not that she threw a soda bottle, not that she tried to darn on whack him upside the head or anything else. Although there have been those types of fights too where they came to blows. But even in those situations, I don't think neither one of them, you know, judging their overall history, deserve to have a ban of, you know, from them not having a firearm. So yeah, we had to tread lightly on just blanketing everybody in it that has been charged with domestic violence with can't buy a firearm. So yeah, that's a very dangerous slope right there with Tulsi Gabbard. So she's gonna, and maybe HR 260 might provide some exemptions for cases like that. Like I said, I haven't looked at that, but hopefully it does provide some exemptions, depending on what type of domestic violence are we banning people. But I hope it's not everybody. But then she also has H Resolution 370, which to require legislation hearings in response to gun violence tragedies. HR 4365, Domestic Violence Loophole Closure Act. HR 5576, Terrorist Firearms Prevention Act. HR 226, Keeping Guns from High-Risk Individual Acts. Okay, now what is considered high individuals? Y'all know we got to look into that, because sometimes that negatively affects us. They just by being in a bad neighborhood, they might consider you darn high risk, or you might falsely been labeled. Because here's another thing with this high risk act. Now, what is you labeling once again high risk? Somebody is suffering from depression, that might put them at high risk. Somebody was in special ed when they was in school, that labeled them high risk. But we know that, the school to prison pipeline that was put against black people specifically, disproportionately, had us in special programs that already have us subliminally programmed to go to prison. They had rooms set up where if you acted out of term, instead of just going and getting a write-up or going having regular inter school suspension, because I've dealt with both sides of it. I've been to inter school suspension one time at E. Smith High School, and I was at an alternative school where I had in school suspension per se. But it's not like where the regular in school suspension, you're in a separate room and you're doing your work and stuff. No, this one was literally, I was in it was an alternative school. They had me in this one room cell. It's nothing but white walls, the steel door closed, and it was pretty much like solitary confinement. It was full-on solitary confinement, pretty much conditioning you for the prison lifestyle. Like when you walk in the door, you had to undergo the metal detector and everything like that. The guards had every right to slam you and didn't give a damn about, just restricting you. They could just treat you however. So would those people be at higher risk? Would they be considered high risk as well? When the only reason why they was put there is because of the fact that they was mislabeled with AD. That's another thing that's put on black folks and stuff too. ADD and, pushing a pill prescription and stuff on us. So there's a lot of corruption that goes on specifically against black people to keep the modern day slavery system known as the prison system going. Because we know that the 13th Amendment only ended slavery in the form of privatized slavery, but allows slavery in the form of, the 13th Amendment through the prison industry. So it's no coincidence that white nationalist groups have infiltrated law enforcement, which has been confirmed by the FBI. So the same people that used to get money off of labor of black people on their private lands are now running the same government institutions, the law enforcements, the prisons that now get money off of our labor. So you think that's coincidental? No, it's not. So like I said, you got the prison to school pipeline that's already conditioning us to try to set us up for us to even get into prison. So now you making it even harder for those types of people to get a firearm by making them automatically deemed high risk. I had to look into this real quick. Let me go ahead and click on here. I said the video was going to be an hour plus long anyway, so. So this is what they deem high risk. Has been convicted of a crime of violence in the previous 10 years. Let's see once again that there we go, because once again, I told you my sister threw a darn soda can at empty soda can at her husband, and that was deemed criminal. So it's now she darn high risk. Oh, we can't give your ass a darn gun. You might try to throw a bullet at his ass next, honey. Is under the age of 25 and has been adjudicated as having committed an offense that would have been a crime of violence if committed by an adult. See, that's open-ended too, because what we saying, maybe I don't know. Because that could be considered like, once again, a minor physical assault or something like that. So what is the level of the crime? So it's like, short of it being a felony crime, I'm trying to see why is we darn making this statement so open-ended. Because if, let's say the 16-year-old got in a scuffle with somebody else at the schoolhouse, and if it was between two adults, that would be considered like a regular assault charge. But because it was teenagers, both of them got suspended from school 10 days, and it was done and dealt with. So now, looking back at their youth, are we now punishing them from that type of situation as well? Now, Tulsi, I can't get with this, baby. So, numero tres, is that how y'all say it in Espanol? Uno, dos, tres. So, numero tres has been convicted on 2 separate occasions in any period of 3 consecutive years in the last 10 of an offense that has the possession or distribution of alcohol or a controlled substance as an element. Okay, I can possibly understand that one. 4 has been convicted of stalking. Now, once again, why is we darn gonna escalate necessarily stalking to, gun? Because once again, you just got them. But then I'm 50-50 on this, because you got the stalkers who would try to go at you with criminal intent, but then you got the ones who are just fans. But then fans can turn tragic as well. So it's like, well, with the new age of celebrity with YouTubers and stuff, it's like, okay, what if you got young, fans? So y'all already trying to punish people under 25 who might have, done something as simple as a minor assault. They might be deemed high risk already. But let's say they've been caught stalking Jeffree Star, Manny MUA, or Tati, and they wanted an autograph and a picture and all of this. But they've been doing that a little bit too consistent. Like, they've been following the person's Instagram and know where every time where they at, and it's like, well, technically you did a lot, put your business out there for somebody to find where you. But then again, the stalking is still not cool. But I can see in certain situations where stalking might not always be deadly. So in situations like with YouTubers, where you might have a stalker who's just an over-obsessed fan, honey, are we now, saying that they can't have a firearm either? Like, come on now. It has to actually be some darn direct evidence of them showing that they could have some violent tendencies or something. Like, trafficking drugs and something like that can directly lead to a violent confrontation if a drug deal goes wrong. I can see that. I can see, okay, this person needs to be high risk. But when we talk about limiting people, such as people under 25 who might have committed an offense in their youth, it's like, shouldn't it, upon them turning 18, that shouldn't even be looked at anyway? So now you trying to, no, Tulsi, I can't get with this. And then it goes to say, prohibits any such person from 1, shipping or transporting in interstate or foreign commerce, or processing in or affecting commerce any firearm or ammunition, or 2, receiving any firearm or ammunition which has been shipped or transported in interstate or foreign commerce. Once again, that's treading on dangerous territory, because let's say if I'm in the state of North Carolina and I purchase several guns legally, and I relocate to Florida, but I went by plane. And sometimes plane laws are a little bit iffy when you transporting guns and shit. Now, of course, I think some will allow you, as long as you have the guns, separated, like you don't have your Glock in, and you make sure your gun is properly break down and all of that. I don't know. I ain't tried it, honey. I'm black. They ain't about to darn on. They quit to label us terrorists and shit, but look who's committing all the shootings. But nonetheless, my black ass go up in the darn on airport, have my darn on gun and stuff. Next thing they darn on tackling a bitch to the ground. So I don't even know what the laws is in regards to a gun. So what happens when you have somebody who purchased their guns and they want it transported to their new location? And, due to having reasonable fear the TSA might darn gonna tackle your ass down, honey, in the darn gonna airport. You darn gonna decide to ship your darn gonna guns instead. So is there an exception for cases like that? And then it's like, also, what about somebody who has a gun permit and wants to buy a gun from somebody from a different state? So how does that work now? Because now you're saying receiving any firearm or ammunition which has been shipped or transported interstate. Okay, what if somebody has a special gun? Let's say a purple darn gone custom made gun in South Carolina, but your ass is in Georgia. So I had to darn gone travel my ass all the way to darn gone South Carolina as opposed to having it shipped to me. Like, come on now, Tulsi. There got to be some limitations to this. Now, definitely international, I can see where the problem is because, a lot of people who is coming from Venezuela, Guatemala, and all of those countries who are seeking asylum and refuge and, causing the hoopah with the immigration epidemic that's going on. A lot of reason why those people are being run out is because they're the criminals there are getting their guns from gun shows and shit here that the NRA supports. So you are able to sell your guns outside the country to these people, this, that, and third. So I can understand, limiting gun sales outside the country. I definitely understand that, especially to, like I said, these walls are too thin. But especially to countries that have been proven to be high risk. But within the darn on states, Tulsi, like I said, that's going to be very problematic just for the reasons that I named above, honey. So, yeah, I can't get with this darn on HR 226, honey. And I think that's about it. Let me see. Then you got HR 1745, Support Assault Firearms Elimination and Reduction for Our Streets Act. No vote on HR 38, the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. Okay, what is HR 38? Now I got to look into this. So as we talking about possibly banning darn gone concealed carry, let me see what this means. This bill amends the criminal code to allow a qualified individual to carry a concealed handgun into or possess a concealed handgun in another state that allows individuals to carry concealed firearms. Once again, this bill amends the federal criminal code to allow a qualified individual to carry a concealed handgun into or possess a concealed handgun in another state that allows individuals to carry concealed firearms. A qualified individual must be eligible to possess, transport, or receive a firearm under federal law, carry a valid photo identification document. 3, carry a valid concealed carry permit issued by any state or be eligible to carry or conceal firearm in his or her state of residence. Additionally, the bill specifies that a qualified individual who lawfully carries or possesses a concealed handgun in another state is not subject to the federal prohibition on possessing firearms, possessing a firearm in a school zone, and may carry or possess the concealed handgun in a federally owned lands that are open to the public. Okay, I'm definitely here for this one. So basically, this one is saying that we are able, if we have, a gun permit, to be able to also, within another state that allows it, to carry our guns there. Whereas right now, it's very shifty. Like, you have to have a license for each state, I think. You might have to be in, or, it's just so many different laws per different state. So this is just making it more transparent across the nation, from what I'm gathering. This bill does not prohibit a law enforcement officer with reasonable suspicion of a violation of any law from conducting a brief investigation stop in accordance with the U.S. Constitution. It specifies that certain retired and off-duty law enforcement officers who are authorized to carry concealed firearms are not subject to the federal prohibition on possessing or discharging a firearm in a school zone. Okay. It permits a federal judge to carry a concealed firearm in any state. If the judge is not prohibited from receiving a firearm under federal law. Okay. And then Section 202, this bill amends the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act to require each federal agency and department, including a federal court, to certify whether it has provided to the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, disqualifying records of persons prohibited from receiving or possessing firearms, and establish sustainability, comply with implementation to plan to maximize record submissions and verify the accuracies. Then you got Section 203. The bill amends the NICS. Honey, I'm thinking about the TV show, y'all. Improvement Amendment Act of 2007 to modify the NICS Act Record Improvement Program, NARIP. Specify it establishes a domestic abuse and violence prevention initiatives as a priority area for NARIP grant funding and creates a funding preference for states that establish an implementation plan and use grants to upload felony convictions and domestic violence records. Once again, I'm a little bit iffy on what they constitute as domestic violence, though. We can't just blanket all domestic violence cases the same. It amends the Crime Identification Technology Act of 1998 to modify the National Criminal History Improvement Program. Specifically, it specifies that facilitating full participation in the NICS as allowable use of NCHIP grant funds include increasing efforts to pre-validate felony convictions and domestic violence records to expedite eligibility determinations, and permits the federal share of a grant to exceed 90% of the program costs if a state complies with its implementation plan. And then the last section is Section 2. Oh, wait a minute. It's two more sections after that, but they are short. This section amends the NICS. A lot of darn on amendments, honey. Direct the Department of Justice in coordination with each state or tribal government to establish an implementation plan, including benchmarks to maximize the automation and submission of mental health and criminal history records. And once again, that mental health can be, a double standard as well. Require Department of Justice to conduct and publish the results of compliance determination for state and tribal governments. Give preference to certain discretionary grant applicants that sustainably comply with an implementation plan, and require the NICS to notify law enforcement agencies when a firearm is transferred to a person who is subsequently determined to be prohibited from receiving or possessing a firearm. Section 206, Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Assistance must report to Congress on the use of bump stocks in the commission of crimes, including the number of instances and the types of firearms. And now the last bill, Section 207, the bill authorizes appropriations for FY 2018/FY 2022 to carry out activities under this title. So quite lengthy, which like I said, I'm very 50-50 on the subject. Then you got HR 1296 to regulate assault weapons to ensure that the right to keep and bear arms is not unlimited and for other purposes. HR 8, Bipartisan Background Checks Act of 2019 to require a background check for every firearm sale. Okay, I'm not necessarily against that. And then these are all her statement videos and her third-party links. And that is it, y'all. So this video still ended up being over an hour 20 minutes because I did not expect that last one to be as lengthy as it was. But I guess it did work out for the best anyway, because I would have hated to go over that within the domestic issues where we already talking about 5 other points, and I know that video is going to be a half hour. So if I would have included that video would have been an hour by itself. So that is it, y'all. Like I said, I know this is very lengthy, but the timestamps will be down below. Feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. If y'all have any questions, especially to my Spanish speaking people, like I said, give me the correct pronunciations on the Spanish words that I messed up on. Feel free to leave that down below as well. Comment, subscribe, and I will see y'all soon with more videos. Mwah.